And welcome everyone to the Walkoff on W90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair, the only baseball show on the WMSC airwaves. We are 2 games into the World Series. I'm your host, Vincent Pacone, and I'm joined by the always amazing Anthony Walsh. Anthony, we are back from the World Series. 2 games in, the Dodgers now have a 2-0 lead, which is why we're playing California Love to start off today's show. How are we feeling so far?
Well, if you're a Dodgers fan, you got to be feeling pretty good. I mean, you have your Freddie Freeman has his Kirk Gibson-esque moment, and in one of the craziest moments we've ever seen in World Series history, I think that's fair to say. First Grand Slam walk-off home run in World Series history, which is also a crazy thing to say considering the World Series goes back well over 100 years. But, I mean, yeah, if you're a Dodgers fan, you got to feel pretty good, especially kind of got swept under the rug with how well Freddie Freeman did, but Jack Flaherty, a guy who really struggled against the Mets in Game 5 of the NLCS, pitched an absolute gem against a tough Yankee lineup, and now you're heading back to New York with a 2-0 lead with Walker Buehler on the mound, who I know has struggled, but still, Walker Buehler is supposed to be one of your big aces. So if I'm a Yankee fan, I'm a little concerned. Dodger fan, though, you got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, and I think a big thing to look at right now is these pitchers for the Dodgers have been lights out so far.
Yep.
I mean, Yamamoto in Game 2 looked amazing, and obviously all of these pitchers struggled against the Mets. Now you're going up against Judge, Soto, Giancarlo, and you're losing, and you're winning.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to feel good if you're that starting pitching staff. But really quickly, Anthony mentioned it for a second there, and we're gonna bring it up here. Here is the Freddie Freeman Grand Slam, bottom of the 10th. 2 outs in the bottom of the 10th. Nestor Cortez is on the mound. Bases are loaded. And this is the first pitch that Freddie sees. Here you go. This is the call from Fox.
Edmund, the winning run. Cortez delivers. Freeman hits the ball to right field. She is gone! Gibby, meet Freddie! Game 1 of the World Series!
So an electric moment there. An electric moment for sure. And you see it work out in its favor for the Dodgers. I was at a wedding for the game. So I was watching it in between, dancing and then going back out.
It's pretty cool.
Pretty fun. And I saw Volpe's single in the top of the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Volpe hits a single to give the Yankees the lead. And I was like, oh, the game's over. The game's over. They're going to probably bring in Holmes or maybe they'll keep in Weaver or something. And instead, they go to Nestor Cortez, who hasn't pitched in a month. And Game 1 goes capuzzo.
Yeah, Aaron Boone's managing. I've never really been a big fan of how Aaron Boone manages his bullpen, and this series and just the playoffs in general have been a microcosm of why I feel that way, and I think why just Yankee fans in general feel that way, because there was absolutely no reason to bring in Nestor Cortez in a situation. And I know people are comparing, well, the Mets did it with Kodai Senga, where he hadn't pitched in even longer than Nestor hadn't pitched, and he got brought into a game. But this was an entirely different situation. I mean, it was the bottom of the 10th inning. You have a lead in Game 1 of the World Series, and the guy hasn't pitched since early to mid-September. It was by far, obviously, the most important moment of the Yankees season up to that point. And you put a guy, by the way, who has never even pitched that late into a game. He's a starting pitcher. He gets taken out usually in the 6th inning. Now you're putting him into a bases-loaded scenario. It made no sense to me before the home run happened, and it certainly made even less sense to me after the home run happened. But I know it's crazy to say this, especially if the Yankees get swept, which I don't think is going to happen. But if they get swept, or even if they only win one game, Aaron Boone's seat might be hot. It's very rarely happens where a team wins a pennant and then a manager gets fired. But you could make an argument that he could single-handedly tank this World Series for the Yankees, because that was horrendous.
This is my thing. I've seen managers go to their bullpen before for starting pitching, especially to close out big games in the postseason. All right? The Phillies did it in 22. Madison Bumgarner closed out the World Series in 2014. 2014, right?
Yeah.
But there's a difference between these pitchers and then you're going back and you're looking. Oh, and Chris Sale. Chris Sale closed out the World Series a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
When he was the Red Sox. These pitchers are different than Nestor Cortez. Nestor Cortez, his big thing is, I don't throw fast. I don't throw fast, but I throw breaking pitches, and they can break a little bit, and that works. But if you're going through, these are the pitchers who came up prior to Nestor. Garrett Cole pitched 6 innings. Garrett Cole's a lights-out pitcher. All right? Clay Holmes came in for 2/3. Okay. Luke Weaver was in for an inning and 2/3. Tommy Kahnle was in for 2/3. And then Cousins was in for a third. And then Nestor Cortez comes in for 2 outs. He just needed 2 outs, and he couldn't get them. My biggest thing is, when you're looking at these, you're looking at the pitch. It's decreasing.
Yeah.
It's decreasing. When we're going down the list of who's pitching, the quality is constantly depleting. Now, Weaver has been good. Luke Weaver has been a solid pitcher out of the pen for the Yankees for some time now. But if you were to look at the other side, you go Jack Flaherty. He throws gas. Then you have Banda, who isn't as good, but still.
He's had a really good year for them.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Met a few years ago, and he was terrible, but he's had a career year with the Dodgers.
Then you have Grattarol, Bruce Starr,
Gratterall, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Vesia, Kopech, and then Treinen. The difference between those pitchers and the Yankees pitchers is all those pitchers are elite.
It's a stark contrast. You could say that for sure. Just looking, you could make an argument, okay, you really want to use Nestor that bad. Why not use him earlier in the game? And also, this is a point that people have been making, and Derek Jeter actually made, which I was kind of surprised that he would criticize a friend in Aaron Boone. But Garrett Cole only threw 88 pitches, and he was dealing. Now, this is game 1 of the World Series here. There's no, the saying there is no tomorrow, that stands here. Game 2 isn't going to mean much if you're down 1-0 when you could have been up 1-0. That momentum is huge, and Aaron Boone had no feel for that whatsoever. Now, people have also criticized Dave Roberts for taking out Yamamoto in Game 2 early, and yeah, I would also criticize that, but that's kind of just how the game is now. But Garrett Cole also is a veteran in this league. Yamamoto isn't. Yamamoto, it's his first year. He's hardly even pitched in the major leagues. Garrett Cole's been in the league, 10, 12 years? He could handle more than 88 pitches, and it's the World Series here. The Yankees don't have some fantastic bullpen to go to. They have a few mainstay guys, which Boone wasted in innings that weren't as high leverage. And I'm sorry, this is just complete total mismanagement by Aaron Boone. It's honestly one of the worst managing series I think I've ever seen, and we're only 2 games in. And if I was a Yankees fan, I'd be livid because the Dodgers are very tough, but you have the talent to push this team. And they almost pushed them in Game 1 to the brink of losing Game 1, and then they blew it for no reason. So I just don't get it, and I'm glad that Derek Jeter called him out because he needed to be called out. Garrett Cole could have easily went 100 pitches at least in that game.
You have a lead. Yes, it was a 1-run lead. You fall down 1-0 in the bottom of the 5th with a how'd the Dodgers score that first one? With a sac fly from, I believe, Tommy Edman. Yes. No. A double. Yeah. A double by Tommy Edman. Right? No. Wait. It does not say. 1 second. So you go down 1-0 early in that 5th. Yes, a sac fly by Will Smith. You go down early in the bottom of the 5th. Then in the top of the 6th, Giancarlo hits a beautiful home run and takes a 2-1 lead. So now you're up 2-1. Then you go to that bottom of the 6th inning, and Cole goes 1 out, or Cole finishes that inning with 88 pitches. I would have said send him into the 7th. I would have said send him into the 7th. And I guess you could be looking at it as, all right, listen, this is our star pitcher. If he's getting tired, if he's getting into the later innings, that means that hitters are getting more used to him. Okay? That could be a possibility that went through Boone's head. But he had given up 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, 1 earned run. if that's happening to me, and the earned run was a sac fly, so I don't even want to hear it that was that was a good idea or anything. If you're giving up 4 hits, you should be fine. You should be fine, and you could go into the 7th. Now you're dealing with a little bit of a lead here, but sometimes you got to take a little bit of risk because you know that bullpen. Everybody knows Clay Holmes is an awful pitcher who made the All-Star game, who blew countless games for the Yankees. Now he's trying to get his way back, and he's doing all right with it. But Garrett Cole has been an established pitcher for so long, and if you're walking away from him so quickly. When I saw that move, I really thought of the Kevin Cash move in the 2020 World Series when he pulls out Blake Snell in an amazing game for Snell. He pulls him out early, like with 70 pitches or something.
Yeah, it was something crazy.
Something crazy. And then they go on to lose that game. You lose that game because you take out the one pitcher, the one person that was dominating a team that seemed that they could never be dominated.
Yeah, any out you could get against the Dodger lineup, you have to take. And Garrett Cole was dealing. Like, I'm sorry. Like, to start the game, I was actually I was sitting there, I'm saying, you know what? He wasn't looking that great to start the game. A lot of his breaking stuff was sitting over the middle of the plate. I believe to start the game, Ohtani and Betts hit 2 balls straight to the warning track. But then he settled in. And he was looking like ace Garrett Cole. And this isn't some game in July or August where you're trying to fight for the AL East or something. This is the World Series here, and to me he's not managing with enough urgency. Like, if you want to have someone up behind Cole ready, I completely understand that, and actually I support that. That's a smart move. But let your ace go out there. You know what? If he gives up a home run and blows it, fine. You lose with your ace. Don't lose with Nestor Cortez in the bottom of the 10th with Freddie Freeman coming up with the bases loaded. Like, if there's ways to lose that, yes, it would still sting, and I'm not sitting here saying Yankee fans would be happy, but there's ways to lose that if it happens, you say, okay, you know what, they beat our best. They didn't beat their best in Game 1. That's the bottom line.
Bottom line is the Yankees, and the hitting was not bad in Game 1 for the Yankees. They had 10 hits, all right? And I mean, listen, there's a lot of hitters that are struggling there, which we'll get to in just a little bit, but when I see this team, you'd really think that something could happen. But you make bad bullpen choices. And this is a story that, I mean, every team in the league has at one point. It's just, your bullpen stinks. The Phillies had the bullpen problem earlier this year. Now the Yankees have it, and the Mets have had it before.
Yeah, Mets definitely is probably the reason we didn't beat the Dodgers.
So it's interesting to see. Now on the Dodgers side, you go into that into the bottom of the 8th with 1 out. You got a run Shohei on third, who got there on a double and an error, and then Mookie Betts hits a sac fly to tie up the ball game. So you're tied in the bottom of the 8th now. Wow, how they scored with 2 sac flies against all these pitchers, that one shocked me. I was not expecting that. I thought that's if I'm a Yankees fan, that's what hurts. Is that, okay, we got beat by 2 sac flies in a grand slam. If you take away one of those sac flies, the game's over.
Yeah, well, another thing is you gotta capitalize on your opportunities. The Mets fell victim to this, and now the Yankees are. You have the bases loaded against this team. You have to score at least a run, preferably 2. And so many times, the Yankees and Mets get the bases loaded, and they don't bring anything from it. Like, that's what the Dodgers have done this whole postseason, bend not break. And I get it. They have good pitching. But they had Blake Trinan on the ropes, and I believe it was Game 2, right? With the bases loaded. And Volpe comes up, and they're saying, well, Joe Davis was saying, well, he's been compared to Derek Jeter his whole life. He grew up watching Derek Jeter. And, this is a Derek Jeter moment. John Smoltz might have said that too. And then he goes up there, and all they have to do is throw the sweeper outside, and he swings at it every time. And I get it. He's young. But if you're going to be up here in Game 1 of the World Series in a spot like that, you got to do better than that. He didn't even work in at bat that well. Trinan was really on the ropes. He wasn't finding the strike zone particularly well. And Volpe was swinging as if he was facing Treinen, with only 5 pitches. Treinen was throwing like almost 30 pitches, and he pitched the day before. Like, you got to make a guy throw more than that, and you got to work in a bat better than that. And he looked nothing like Derek Jeter used to look like. Keep in mind, Derek Jeter was in that spot when he was that young too. Like everybody, I mean, I've given Volpe slack, but World Series, it's put up or shut up time, and he didn't put up.
I have to say, I mean, he does go swinging on that in Game 2, but he makes his moment in Game 1 where he gets that single. He gives the Yankees the lead, the 3-2 lead, and then the grand slam in the bottom half, which we went over. I hate the comparison to Derek Jeter.
So do I.
I hate the comparison to Derek Jeter. And I hate that announcers push it so much. I mean, Derek Jeter is a legendary player. It's like if why am I blanking on his name? Francisco Alvarez is constantly being compared to Gary Carter. Or it's like if Bryce Harper or if Alec Boehm is constantly being compared to Mike Schmidt.
Yeah.
Or,
it's silly.
Whatever DH is in Boston is being compared to Big Papi. It makes no sense that Anthony Volpe should be compared to Derek Jeter in any regard. Derek Jeter was an amazing player. No matter, I also hate the idea that, well, if he played in Kansas City, he wouldn't be a Hall of Famer. He had 3,000 hits. All right? That puts that argument to sleep.
And his postseason performance, like I get it. Listen, I'll be the first one to criticize his defense. He was not a good defender, but the guy in the postseason was electric. Every single time he went there, and he went there like 90 times. So, and that's another reason why. I mean, if you're going to compare a guy to an all-time great, they have to give you a reason to compare them. They can't just be a good prospect. Volpe's given you no reason to actually compare him to Derek Jeter other than sharing the position of shortstop. Like, if Volpe were to have some great postseason, which he's not, and he were to save this Yankee season and win the World Series for them, which is still possible, but if he were to do that, okay, maybe I could say, you know what, maybe he's like a young Derek Jeter. He's done none of that. So I agree with you. They brought it up right as the bases were loaded and he came up, and I'm sitting there saying, seriously, like Derek Jeter's got to be listening to this, and he works on the pre and post game show. He's gonna be like, man, I did this like 30 times. I came up there and saved the Yankees. Like, and now you're comparing this 23-year-old who hasn't really done anything for the organization. It's kind of an insult to Derek Jeter, to be honest.
And I remember watching it, and I heard that, and I was like, this is ridiculous. There's no reason that Derek Jeter should be getting called out right now. And then, one, that makes Volpe look ridiculous. And two, to go back on your point, Anthony, if I'm Derek Jeter, I'm like, why are we calling this kid the new me?
Yeah.
Why are you calling him the new me? Because that's ridiculous. Derek Jeter did not have that pressure. All right? He did not have that pressure that he needs to fill the shoes of some old Yankees shortstop. No. He had the pressure of dealing with New York, which is an insane amount of pressure, and finding yourself in the big leagues, which is an insane amount of pressure. And he did it great. But now you're giving Volpe those requirements, and also you need to live up to the standard that is Derek Jeter.
I'll tell you what, if there's somebody you want to criticize and compare to Derek Jeter in a certain way, it should be Aaron Judge.
Yes.
Because Aaron Judge was named the captain. Aaron Judge has been the best player on this team for many years now. Soto's overtaken that, but still, he was Mr. Yankee since 2017 when he came up. And he's been absolutely horrendous in all of October, and particularly in the World Series here. He's had opportunity after opportunity, and he's come up short. And people, I've heard Yankee fans are planning on booing him tonight at Yankee Stadium, and people are criticizing that. I can't say I blame them, because if this was Pete Alonso, if this was Francisco Lindor, Mets fans would be doing the same thing, as they should, because you expect more out of your star player, who, by the way, is getting paid a lot of money. He looks like a guy that in the regular season, Hall of Fame player, postseason, lights are too bright for him. Like, sorry, like that's just, until he proves otherwise, that's what he is. And this is an all-time opportunity for him and the organization. You don't know how when you're going to come back to this position. It's been 15 years since they've been back as it is, and he's laying a total egg. And so I know that Yankee fans are frustrated, and they should be. And
then to read off Aaron Judge's stats so far this postseason, he is in 40 at-bats, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 6 hits in total. That is a 150 batting average. In his career in the postseason, in 211 appearances, he has 42 hits with 15 home runs and is batting just under the 200 mark at the 199. Listen, Aaron Judge, in my eyes, if you're looking at him, I would not compare him to Jeter. If there's any player that I would compare Aaron Judge to, and this is going to be weird, and you're going to be like, wow, that makes no sense, it is Clayton Kershaw.
Clayton Kershaw.
Clayton Kershaw is, in his prime, was one of the greatest pitchers of all time. All right?
I know.
Cy Young, MVP. In the postseason, he stinks. There's
True.
the Kershaw postseason, and then there's the Kershaw regular season. Aaron Judge is just proving to me constantly. I mean, this year he led the league in home runs with 58. He led with RBIs with 144. He had 133 walks, and he hit 322. Now you're looking at him, he's batting 150. And I'm going to be honest, my roommate, Luke Sirianni, who I love so much, is going to the game today, to the Yankees game, and he heard that they're going to try to do a standing ovation for Judge.
Real okay. I don't know how well it's gonna work. I don't. I mean, Philly proved me wrong with Trey Turner. I never thought I'd see the day that Philly would cheer a player that's struggling. But This is also the World Series. Like this.
That's
is
what I said.
Yeah,
it's
like
the World Series.
Yeah.
You are at the last final brink. All right. If you're gone, you're gone. There's probably no way that Aaron Judge is gonna come back in Game 3 and is gonna light the place up. Now I may be wrong. This episode may be posted. And I might make myself look like a total idiot, which is fine.
I mean, tonight's really the opportunity. If you go down 3-0, I mean, I don't want to be a jinx on the Dodger fans out there, but if they go down 3-0, this series is over. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and say that because it's so difficult to beat this team 4 games in a row. It's so difficult as it is to just win the 4 games in general. If you go down 3-0, Aaron Judge at home tonight, down 2-0, has to be the savior for this franchise. If he's not, he's going to be remembered as one of the most disappointing players in Yankees postseason history, probably the most, because you never have a guy with as much hype as him come in and do it. Like, he has a 222 OPS in the World Series. That is like that's horrendous. He's not even getting on base. So if he doesn't have some monster night tonight and the Yankees lose, I really think that this is going to be Aaron Judge's legacy as the Yankee in the postseason.
Anyway, I'm going to quickly look up some Yankees legends postseason stats, and I'll read them off to you. And 1 second,
Just off the top. I mean, while you look, like, just think of some of the top Yankee legends: Reggie Jackson, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio. All of them showed up in the postseason. Granted, I know some of those guys were played 100 years ago, but still, point is valid. These guys were legends because of how they played in the postseason, not just because of how they played in the regular season. If, like I said, if this keeps up with Aaron Judge, like, sure, everybody's going to remember the 60 home runs fondly and everything, but it's really going to be a thing that Yankee fans mention in 10 years and say, well, yeah, but he was terrible in the postseason. There's always going to be that caveat to it, which is a shame for him because he should be remembered as an all-time Yankee, but coming up short.
All right. And then you tell me any more people that you believe that I'm missing here.
Okay.
We're starting off with Lou Gehrig. Lou Gehrig, who was one of the greatest first basemen for the Yankees ever. 361 batting average with 43 hits, 10 home runs, 35 RBIs in a total of 34 games. Reggie Jackson hit in 77 postseason games. He hit 278, 78 home runs, 78 hits, 18 home runs, 48 RBIs. Mr. October. Mr. November, in 158 postseason games, hit 308, 200 hits, 20 home runs, 61 RBIs. The Great Bambino, in 41 postseason games, 326, 42 hits, 15 home runs.
Yeah, Aaron Judge, 199 batting average, 304 on base percentage, 436 slugging. So there you go.
That's your Yankees.
I would say that as long if this doesn't change drastically, he's going to be the most disappointing Yankee postseason performer ever because of his expectations.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so, and I really don't think that. I mean, you can also put Bernie Williams on the list, but Yankees are made by the postseason. The regular season's great. All right, they haven't had a losing record since the 90s, late 80s.
Oh yeah, losing record hasn't been in a long time.
Way over 30 years. That doesn't matter. All right. As much as it's cool to win 100 games, to win, the pennant, to win the AL East title, what the Yankees are in it for is to win the World Series. And what every team should be in it for. But if we're looking statistically at every team, the Yankees are in it to win the World Series. They're always in it to win the World Series. Now, when you don't perform in and you're in the World Series and you're 32 years old and your name's Aaron Judge and you had this MVP season and now you're going to get booed.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's any way in which it's a full-blown, standing ovation. Maybe it's a mix of boos and cheers, but I'd be completely shocked if the whole stadium stands up and cheers him.
I don't agree with cheering him.
No,
he had an amazing season. It's over. Your 2024 postseason is different than your 2024 regular season. That's fine. But, there's been people that have been stepping up for him. Giancarlo Stanton has 6 home runs.
I give him a ton of credit.
He's been amazing.
Yeah. Everybody had him done, and the guy's had a postseason to remember. So kudos to him. But imagine, that makes Aaron Judge's performance sting even more. Because if you have 3, Soto, Stanton, and Judge, all 3 of them going, dare I say you're leading the series 2-0. That's very hard to stop if you have Giancarlo Stanton looking like he was with the Marlins. And that's how he's looked so far. And, another caveat to this is, if they get swept, is Juan Soto really going to want to come back? He's going to be in the Yankee Stadium. It's going to be booing the whole team. They're probably going to hear some of the worst insults that have ever been said. And, Juan Soto's having an amazing postseason, an OPS well over 1,000. If you're him, would you? Granted, he's probably going to go wherever the most money is thrown at him. But, if that happens, it's going to leave an awfully bad taste in his mouth as a Yankee. So, I don't know. I'm not sitting here going to say that necessarily means he's going to the Mets. But if I'm a Yankee fan, that's in the back of my head too. Granted, far in the back of my head, you still have a World Series to play. But especially if you go down 3 games tonight, I'm sitting there saying, man, not only are we about to get swept in this World Series, Juan Soto might not come back. That really, really stings.
I can't see him not coming back. But you're right.
Even if they get swept?
The Yankees, if you lose at home, it's going to be devastating. It's going to be devastating. Because I think a big thing is, especially in the game that we're seeing today, the World Series that we've been seeing for the last 14 years. In the last, unless the Dodgers win this year, I think it's the last 10 years, or what is it? The last team to win World Series in not back to back, but in the last 15-year span to win 2 World Series is the Giants. When they won in 12 and 14 and 10.
Yeah.
Now, I don't really. That tells me a lot. But that tells me that there are so many teams that just quickly. You go from down to up like that.
Yep.
The Royals lost 100 games last year. Now they're winning. They made it to the postseason this year. The Tigers lost all these games last year. Then they make it to the postseason and they beat the Astros. It's a snap of a finger about how fast these teams are losing 100 games, winning 100 games, losing 100 games, winning 100 games. And if I'm the Yankees right now, I don't want to get caught in the current. Exactly. I don't want to get caught in the current, and I don't want to be, all right, well, we're always in the playoffs, that's fine, but we're not doing anything. I don't want to become the Sixers of baseball where we're just constantly losing in these rounds. If the Yankees want to win it, they got to do it this year.
I agree.
The Dodgers are spending no money, so they don't really care. They'll sign Juan Soto, and then they'll still have money to spare. You could see them back in the World Series because they have all this deferred money, and then they'll be awful in 10 years from now. But if you're the Yankees right now, you have to deal with the idea that it is going to be a long time before you come back. It is going to be a long time. And there's no guarantees anymore with the playoff format, with how many teams get in the playoffs, with, 162 games. MVPs are looking like, solid role players at this point. All of the destruction that Shohei Ohtani had to face, he's not a postseason hitter. Guys, he's hitting .260. He has 3 home runs in 50 plate appearances, 13 hits. It's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's amazing to anybody's standards. But he is Shohei Ohtani. And I think, in my eyes, everybody, once you hit the postseason, pitchers are bringing their A game. Not as much as they're bringing at the back end of 162 games, especially when you're versing, some pretty bad teams.
Yeah, that's another thing for the Yankees. If I just wait for Ohtani and Betts to really get going, and you'll really have no shot. All this has been going on with Ohtani and Betts. Not that they've been playing bad, but not playing up to their standard, I would say. And yet they're down 2-0. Tommy Edman has been like Mr. October of the new age of 2024. It's incredible what he's doing because, like we've said, during regular season, he's nothing special. During the postseason, he's been one of the best postseason hitters we've seen in a very long time. If you get Shohei Ohtani going, I know he's injured, but he's going to play tonight. And we saw what Freddie Freeman did with his injury, so anything's possible. If anything, you never know. Ohtani could hit now. Maybe that he's injured now, he might hit. We've seen some crazy moments this postseason regarding injured players, but if he gets going, I really don't see any way for the Yankees to come back because Ohtani, when he's hot, is nearly unstoppable.
I'm interested to see what happens. We are going to quickly go to break. And when we come back, we'll be looking a little bit more deeper into Game 2. And then Anthony and I will be talking about what we think will be happening in Game 3 tonight, Game 4 on Friday. And by our next episode, sadly, baseball's over. So please, Yankees, make this a fun one for me. Because I don't want to be talking about 4 games in the World Series.
I do.
Anthony does. Anthony
do.
does. I don't want to be talking about 4 games in the World Series. I'd like to talk about 7. I think that would be cool.
That would be fun, yeah.
That would be a lot of fun. Well, if you're a Yankees fan, this one's for you. It's Don't Let Me Down by the Beatles. That was Ice Cube to start off Game 2 of the World Series. And we are back on the Walkoff on 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. I'm your host, Vincent Pacone, and I'm joined by the always amazing Anthony Walsh. Anthony, we talked Game 1 in the first half. It's time to talk a little bit of Game 2 and what we think is going to happen in Games 3, 4, and if there is any more after that.
Yeah.
Now, Ice Cube comes out and sings "It Was a Good Day." He switched up some of his lyrics for
cleaned it up a little bit.
Cleaned it up a little bit, but also put a lot of Yankee slander in there.
I like that he said this is for Fernando too. Fernando Valenzuela.
Yes, I thought that was a good way to start it off, for sure. And if you are a Yankees fan, I mean that's such an exciting thing to have. Just the Yankees are pumped. The fans are pumped. I love it. If you're a Yankees fan, if you're a Dodgers fan, you're pumped. This is how you want it to go. The stadium's filled to the brim. You have a coast-to-coast battle here. Last game on the West Coast, potentially for the rest of the series, if they, can win 2 out of 3 in New York. But Ice Cube with a wonderful way to get things started. It was a star-filled night for everybody. I think Brad Pitt was there. I actually don't know who else was there, now that I'm thinking about it. But I do know that Brad was there, and Ice Cube was there, and he had a great show to start off the game. And I saw Alex Verdugo was very happy that he was there.
That would have annoyed me, honestly, because I was sitting there, I'm like, you're down 1-0, and he's literally like calling out the Yankees in the song. Like, I don't know. It's the World Series. I want my guys to be a little bit more locked in. That's just me. I don't know. But, it was kind of cool to see. I mean, I'm still a little, not happy that my Mets aren't there. But, the Dodger fans, they haven't seen a real World Series anyway since 1988. So it's been a long drought for them, too, because I don't count 2020.
I don't think anybody should.
Yeah.
If you can't go to the game and see them win the World Series, then
Exactly. Yeah.
then you can't count it. That's just what it is. But game 2 comes around. It was Rodon against Yamamoto, and Yamamoto he had some struggles in the postseason, but not as much as Carlos Rodon, who after this game would be sporting a 5.60 ERA, and Yamamoto would be sporting a 3.86. The game starts off, as all games do, with a big bang. Tommy Edman, Mr. October, as we were talking about him before, for the Dodgers. He started off with a big bang in the bottom of the second. Then you go to the top of the third with 2 outs and 2 strikes on him. Juan Soto ties the game up, and then it was over after that. that was it. Teoscar Hernandez would hit a 2-run home run to give them a 3-1 lead, and then just minutes later, Freddie Freeman would go yard once again for his second day in a row and give them a 4-1 lead. In the 9th, the Yankees would finally get something starting with bases loaded. They'd get a single off of – they get an RBI single from Giancarlo Stanton, who scored Juan Soto. They would then load the bases with 1 out, and then would come up Anthony Volpe.
Yeah. You know what happened there.
We talked about this in the first half a little bit, but he would be constantly compared to Derek Jeter on the broadcast, which I know he can't hear. I'm not saying he was listening to it while he was up there, but I'm saying you're putting all this pressure on him. He might not hear it, but he definitely knows it. If you don't live under a rock, you know that Anthony Volpe is being compared to Derek Jeter, and there is no rhyme or reason to it except that he plays shortstop and he's from New Jersey.
Yeah, he knows the pressure just based off the moment alone. I mean, it's either one. It's the pressure is either a privilege or the pressure is either too much for you, and the pressure was too much for him. But yeah, I don't know if I'd have much confidence if he came up in a situation like that again, especially at home at Yankee Stadium, knowing that the stadium's like 50,000 people is ready to boo you if you don't get a hit. But it just goes back to my overall point from earlier in the show. Like, if you're gonna get the bases loaded, especially late in the game, you got to capitalize more than that. Otherwise, you're gonna lose. Like, the Dodgers are just too good. That bullpen is too good. Like, if you get that bullpen to the brink, you better beat them in that instance because they will not. Like, chances are, if they get the bases loaded once or even twice, they're not gonna do it again. They're not even gonna get close to it again. They'll shut down. Like, that bullpen's that good. So if you get them to that brink, you better push that door open. Otherwise, the door's gonna get shut and it's gonna be done like it was for the Yankees. So this game tonight, like I already said, and you've already said, absolutely huge. And it's honestly, I think, their best chance to win a game and get not an advantage in this series, but just keep their hopes alive in this series because Walker Buehler, very, very shaky.
Well, I mean, after Tommy John surgery, it should be interesting to see how he pitches in a World Series. He pitched in 2020 in the World Series, which does count, but not World Series-wise. The other thing is, bottom of the 9th, Blake Trinan, who has been a lights-out pitcher, gets knocked up a little bit. In two thirds, he gave up 3 hits, a run, struck out 2. He also hit Rizzo.
Yeah.
And loads the bases. After that, this was a big moment for me. When they were able to take him out, I was pumped. But he got that second out because he was facing Volpe. Volpe goes fishing. I mean, fishing like hook, line, and sinker. He was gone. There was no way you were getting this guy back because you throw him an outside slider, and you know where he's going? He's going outside. He's going way outside. Now, talking about Blake Trinan, he is a fabulous pitcher. He's a wonderful pitcher, especially right now, because I was talking to one of my friends who works at Fox right now for the production team, and he's producing the World Series. So I was asking him, what are some stories that you're looking at? And he was like, one of the big stories that I'm looking at, which I thought was really interesting, is Blake Trinan.
Mm-hmm.
Because Blake Trinan has two really good pitchers. He has his slider and he has his sinker. Now, for anybody who doesn't know what a slider or sinker is, I will explain. The slider slides away from you. That's its big thing. If you're throwing from your, if you're throwing from your right hand, it's going left. If you're throwing from your left hand, it's going right. It's sliding, almost down a slide, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong there?
No, you're right.
No, I'm right. He then has his sinker. His sinker, what a sinker does is it goes in on you. So it sinks into you. It doesn't slide as much as a slider, but it sinks. It sinks. So if you're throwing it with your right hand, it's going towards the right side. And it's just sinking just a little bit so that the bat gets directly under it, and usually you're hitting it on the ground. Right? Am I wrong, Anthony?
No, you're right.
So, what Blake Trinan does so well is he makes these pitches look the exact same. They almost go through a tunnel, and then whichever grip he has comes out the other end. So they both look like the same pitch until the last possible second when the slider slides down like crazy or the sinker dips in a little bit. And then it makes hitters look stupid because if you're thinking that it's a slider and you're getting ready for the slider and then this pitch sinks into you, you're going to look like you got caught off guard. You don't know what's happening, which is what happened to Anthony Volpe. He got caught guessing. He obviously thought that a sinker was coming. And then that slider goes whipping outside. You don't even have a time to really think about it. It's just an instinct move, which is why these players are so good and which is why baseball is so hard. But that slider goes whipping outside. Trinan throws it more than once to him outside. He doesn't go for one, but he goes for the other two, and he goes striking out swinging. So as much as you could possibly say, hey, listen, Volpe, you didn't live up to the moment whatsoever. I'm not saying that he did live up to the moment or that he should be regarded, he should, be cut a little slack for this one. No. I'm just saying, look how hard it is. And then, you couldn't even put the ball in play.
I'll give you something about Blake Trinan. I'm not sure if you knew. They mentioned on the broadcast either game 2 or game 1. I forget which one. But when he was little, like when he was like 2 years old, he cut his thumb like really bad to the point where it had to be reattached. And but he overcame that injury to grow up and become a really good pitcher, obviously. But also he credits that for being able to have so much movement on his pitches because he has, I think, a really bad scar or a really bad indentation on his thumb. And he says it helps me get a better grip on my ball. And it helps me get movement that, like, he has some of the best movement in the league, especially on a slider. And he says, like, not only did I have to overcome that injury when I was 2 years old, it actually ended up helping me. Like, that's what he said, like, according to Joe Davis and John Smoltz on the broadcast. And, like, that's pretty incredible. Like, not very often you see a guy that gets an injury that severe as a little kid and come out of it as a major league pitcher with some of the best movement on their off-speed stuff as he does.
And Anthony, you got to see Blake Trinan when he faced the Mets. I mean, he's looked dominant this entire postseason.
Yeah.
You can't stop him. So what hurts so much is that the Yankees loaded the bases against him, got everything in the perfect spot. The tying run was at second. The go-ahead run was at first. Not all you needed to do, but you just needed to put the ball in play. If you put it in play, like we saw in the 10th inning of Game 1, anything can happen. Volpe taps a ball that probably should have been an inning-ending double play.
Yep.
But instead, Tommy Edman bobbles it, gets eaten up by it, and then you score a run. All you need to do is put that ball in play. And first, it's Volpe who goes down swinging. After Volpe, they bring in Alex Vesia.
Mm-hmm.
This is the final. 1 second. Let me get over to my computer really quickly. This is the final out of Game 2 of the World Series. Here it is on Fox once again.
with the bases loaded in the ninth inning, and Alex Vesia's on to face him. Trevino hits a high fly ball, left field, playable for Tommy Edman, who calls for it, and that's a win for LA, and that's a 2-0 World Series lead.
So, Jose Trevino comes up with bases loaded, all right? Listen, I understand. You're looking for your best pitch. First pitch I see, I'm going after. That's not my mentality ever. I played baseball for a very long time, all right? Maybe not as long as these guys, all right? So I'm not taking any credit away. But Anthony and I can both say that we've watched baseball for a very long time. Anthony, you stop me if I'm wrong. And if you think otherwise, I want to hear why you think otherwise. And if there's anyone out there who thinks otherwise and wants to call into the studio and tell me why I'm wrong and why I'm an idiot, you can call 973-655-4256, and I'll be ready for you. Guaranteed.
Okay.
But you bring in a new pitcher. It's the World Series. There's 2 outs, and you're swinging first pitch.
No.
You're swinging first pitch. Now, listen, it's a fastball. It's on the inner half. That's what Freddie Freeman hit out in Game 1, but you're swinging first pitch.
Well, I can make an argument of why was Jose Trevino even in that spot to begin with. I really don't understand. That's another. I mean, I could go on about.
He pinched hit for Wells.
Yeah, I don't understand. But why? I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say I know the Yankee bench super well, but there's got to be a better bat on the Yankee bench than Jose Trevino, who hit 215 this year. Like
I think you're right.
I don't care who it is. It's got to be somebody better than that.
Now, my biggest thing is, why are you swinging first pitch? It's a new pitcher working at bat a little bit. Now, I think Trinan ended his outing with like 33 pitches. And it really seemed like, something was finally going to be working for these Yankees. They were finally going to start playing baseball in that ninth inning. They scored 1. It was a 4-2 game. Tying runs at second. The go-ahead runs at first. And you go swing at first pitch. Now, I'm not saying he made bad contact because he hit a line drive. He hit it on the screws. And he just hit it in a bad spot. It was just a little bit to the right of Tommy Edman. He just needed to make like 20 feet of ground. And then he makes the catch. My biggest thing is, why are you swinging first pitch? I hate when that happens. I hate that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Jose Trevino, you really got to work in that bat too. Like, if you're Juan Soto, okay. If you're Jose Trevino, like, you got to work in that bat. You're probably not going to get anything more than a single. So, like, and that would be amazing as it is. I would have been shocked if Jose Trevino had a single in that situation. So, like, do your best to work in that bat and try to get a walk, or like Rizzo to get hit by a pitch.
And it's I don't know directly about Jose Trevino, right? But this is not the first time that the Yankees have faced Vesia. They had to face him in their series earlier this year.
Yeah.
I don't think he came in Game 1. Did I say he came in? I think he did come in Game 1. But still, this isn't your first time seeing him. Look at his stuff for a little bit. Just like understand what he has. And then you can find your pitch.
Let him get wild, maybe. I mean, like
Yes.
I said, Trevino, like, that'd be the first thing if I was Aaron Boone, I'd say too. I'm like, I mean, I trusted you in a situation. You had a terrible year, and then you swing first pitch. Like, make him throw a strike, which would have been a strike anyway. But make him throw a strike first. Like, is that crazy of an ask?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Now, Anthony, Game 3 is tonight. It is Clark Schmidt against Walker Buehler. For the rest of the series, I don't really know who's pitching.
Heels pitching.
Heels pitching tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes.
All right. So it'll be Heel tomorrow. What are your predictions for the rest of the series?
I'm going to say, well, I came into this saying Dodgers in 6. I'm now going to say Dodgers in 5. I think the Yankees will win tonight, and I don't think they're going to win again. I think Buehler's a solid matchup for them. He hasn't impressed me. But after that, like, I think tomorrow would be a bullpen game. I would not want to face that Dodger bullpen. Like, I just wouldn't. Like, that Dodger bullpen is extremely, extremely tough. If you don't get to whoever is starting the game, quote-unquote starting the game in the first inning, it's extremely tough. So I'll say they win tonight, but they lose in 5 games.
I have to say, for my Yankees fans out there, what is happening? Because I had so much faith in this team, and I think it's a little bit of I didn't really need to face anyone that tough in rounds prior to this. I faced the Guardians, who are amazing. They were great this season.
Yep.
But
Not
you
the
compare
Dodgers,
them to
though.
the Yankees. No. I had to face the Royals, which is the same story of, wow, I can't believe, they're doing this or that or anything. I can't even believe they're here. And then you face the Guardians, and now you're facing the Dodgers. Now, I'm going to be honest. For any team out there, if you're going up against the Los Angeles Dodgers, you're probably not going to be like, wow, they're the underdogs of this story. The Dodgers are the one team that are never the underdogs because they're so star-studded, and you can't really beat that. And now they're star-studded on both sides. And what scares me the most is that this is probably the weakest Dodger team that we'll see in a couple of years because now they're just deferring money. They're going to be awful in a couple of years, don't get me wrong, but
They have a lot of injuries. Don't forget.
A lot of
these
injuries.
guys are going to come back. It's going to be crazy.
Now, my series prediction is this goes to 6 games, but I cannot, in full faith, say that the Dodgers don't win. I'm wearing a Yankees hat right now for our viewers that cannot see. I will tell you right now, the Yankees are not winning this series. They're not. Your MVP is not performing like an MVP. I don't need him to perform like an MVP. I need him to perform like a baseball player. He's struggling. He's struggling. Your young talent, like Austin Wells, is hitting under 100. Aaron Judge is hitting 150. Now, Soto and Torres are doing amazing. But you look at Volpe. Volpe's hitting 243. That's fine by my eyes. But you still have Verdugo. And the pitching has been bad. Rodon went 3 1/3 yesterday and got nothing done. He gave up 4 runs on 3 home runs in 3 innings. He gave up 3 home runs.
Terrible.
Not
Absolutely terrible.
Not acceptable. Not acceptable. Now, you're giving them up against some of the best home run hitters in the league besides Tommy Edman. You give one up to Teoscar Hernandez and to Freddie Freeman and then to Tommy Edman. Sure, fine. Be that way. But if you're making that many bad pitches that the ball's going out of the ballpark, I mean, there is no reason that Dodgers fans should be collecting 3 balls.
Yeah, I know it's October. You're
No.
going to face great talent. Like either
You
you're
got to
that
be
good
at
or-
your A game.
Yeah,
You got to be at your A game. No, listen. Probably around those last 20, 25 games of the regular season, teams are burnt out. They know they're either going to be in the playoffs or they're not going to be in the playoffs, and it's time to just kick back and relax a little bit. Understand, like, hey, we're playing for our stats now. It doesn't really matter. We're still playing for the team on the front, but the name on the back is pretty cool to play for too. There's some teams like the Royals and like the Mets and like the Braves and the Tigers that are fighting for chances to make the playoffs, and they all did. But when you're Rodon and you're facing those teams that aren't really doing good, and then you're like, wow, I'm amazing. No, you're not.
false
No, you're
sense of
not.
confidence.
That's
is
a
what it
false
is.
sense of confidence right there. And now you're going up against the Dodgers, and you have a 5.80 ERA. I mean, oh my goodness. For anyone who doesn't know what ERA stands for, it's earned run average.
Yep.
Which basically means, hey, if I have, one second. If I have, what's his face lined up? I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I'm gone.
ERA is basically,
ERA stands for
yeah, okay.
if you have a 5 ERA, that means you're giving up probably 5 runs in an outing. All right, that's embarrassing. All right, don't be that
It's
guy.
your earned run average. That pretty
A
much
good
is-
ERA is 3. All right, because you're going 6-7 innings, you're giving up 3 runs. That's fine. That's fine. But as for the walk-off, we will see you all next time. Same place, same time. Next week, we'll be talking about, I don't know.
World
We'll be talking
Series.
about the World Series, and then we'll be talking about the depression that I will be feeling after that there is no more baseball. But as for Anthony Walsh, as for Vincent Pacone, we will see you next time.